Rapaport podcast is sponsored by Casper Mattresses, Casper.com. It's an award-winning sleep startup. Go to Casper.com, $50 off purchase of any size mattress. Put in the code Rapaport, R-A-P-A-P-O-R-T, Casper Mattress in New York City. You could keep the bed for 100 nights. You could get your freak on for 100 nights. If you do not like the bed after 100 nights, you can return the mattress within 100 days. That's a guarantee. Casper.com. The promo code is Rapaport. You get $50 off the mattress. We do not plug, we do not support, we do not take sponsorship from anything we have not tried and we are not passionate about 450%. This is the I Am Rapaport podcast, which is, I'm here with Brett Morgen, who's a director who doesn't know about the worldwide phenomenon that is the I Am Rapaport podcast. And that's all right. That's fine. I am fucking happy to be here. And let me just give a quick intro. So Brett Morgen is, I know you don't like me saying this, but I said it when you weren't here, and I'll say it to your face, is a master. Now I have to say, with the 5 films that I've seen, a master documentarian. And people probably most know him for The Kid Stays in the Picture, which was a game changer. And then On the Ropes, which was before that. And then was it June 17th?
Yeah, June 17th.
June 17th, which is the 30 for 30 about the O.J. Simpson chase, which if you haven't seen it, it's on iTunes, it's on fucking... You could get it anywhere, okay? You could get it on Netflix. It's the OJ chase, and it's all, we call it B-roll or found footage. There's no talking heads except for, it's a masterpiece. And then Crossfire Hurricane, and then most recently, the Montage of Heck, the Kurt Cobain documentary. And me being a fan of documentaries, I mean, just those 5 films that I just named, I think I named 5, they're so eclectic and so different and so impressive and so... The Kid Stays in the Picture, you changed all the shit just with the visuals, the animation, or just the way it was told. Like, you fucked my head up with that. I saw that, I think, at the ArcLight. I was going to come talk to you because I met you when after the Tribe movie. I think you said something nice to me, and I was like, fuck. Brett Morgen, and I had just seen Crossfire Hurricane or whatever, which really fucked my head up, which to me is, there doesn't need to be another Rolling Stones documentary. Like, that to me is one of that shuts down all the other ones. I mean, unless something bad happens, I don't really know what you can do with the Rolling Stones anymore. They've been documented so much, and Crossfire Hurricane is a fucking feat.
Thanks.
When you approached Crossfire Hurricane, did you know that you were going to do it? The film is told with no talking heads. Like, you interviewed the Rolling Stones, but you never see them. You never see what they're saying. You hear them.
Yeah.
Did you know when you were doing it that was how you... Like, what inspired you to do that? Because to me, that was fucking ballsy.
Oh, well, because all my movies up to now take place in the past, but I try to present them in the present tense.
Right.
So that they unfold, so that you experience them like fiction, like as they're unfolding before your eyes. And when you're dealing with subjects like the Stones or Bob Evans, and you're meeting them at the point that they're 70, they're no longer threatening. The point, and these are people who part of their appeal from the beginning was their image.
Right.
And so, in order for the audience to immerse themselves in the experience of these subjects, you need to experience them in their prime,
right? Not
as old men looking back on their lives,
right?
And the thing with talking heads is that I arrived pretty quickly at this idea that to me a frame is a world of endless possibilities.
When you say a frame,
a frame of film, right. There is a world of endless possibilities, and I'm always thinking, are we exploiting in this moment,
taking advantage of?
Are we taking advantage of the breadth and width of what cinema has to offer to us? We're not writing a book. If we were writing a book, an interview is fine,
right?
But it's a movie. So in a movie, I could take that audio, and unless there's something that's being communicated to me through how the interview is being shot, I don't need to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So I have the audio. Now I can put a picture on it, and the combination of the audio plus the image create the meaning. So you're doubling up. You're allowed to. And look, there's sometimes where seeing like a movie like The Look of Silence, which I just saw, which is the sequel to The Act of Killing. Obviously, that's about seeing their faces.
I didn't see that.
Oh, it's all about the face, and you can never cut away. You can never have a cutaway shot. So it started with the kid stays in the picture, where I didn't want Bob on camera because I didn't want it to be about a 70-year-old man looking back on his life.
Right.
I wanted the audience to experience things viscerally.
Right.
And to experience the power of seduction of Bob's image.
Right.
And what became very clear is we could double up on DNA, on info. And so you look at it this way. If you have a documentary and you have an interview and they're talking about something, okay, so you're getting the text. Now why else am I looking at this?
Right.
And one of the things in like Montage, even the interviews were, I don't know if you noticed, but they all went day to night.
I didn't notice that.
Each line was lit and shot differently. Based upon the content. There's a movie called Lenny.
Yes.
Bob Fosse.
That's one of my favorite movies. A masterpiece. And when you talk about masterpieces, gets forgotten about a lot of times. Bob Fosse, talk about being a motherfucker.
The man.
He's a motherfucker.
Fosse is someone who I feel like I was just talking to my high school film teacher last night about this. My evolution as a filmmaker probably went from when I was a teenager, Truffaut and Godard, and then when I was in my early 20s, John Ford, and then in my 30s, Bob Fosse. That was like my sort of, as I came to like at these different, and Fosse, so Lenny is something I always go to for inspiration. I don't know if you remember this, Michael, but in Lenny, it's not a documentary, but there's these faux documentary interviews.
Yeah. Very inspiring.
Think to Montage, because I was on set with the frame grabs of Lenny for my compositions.
For the
interviews with Kurt's family.
Right.
And then in Lenny, you go to it's
I see it right
primal.
now. The side
shots, the profile shots, and you cross the axis when you come to the front low angle. And there's only 3 interview subjects. It's the mom, the wife, and the business manager. Montage of Heck. It's only the primal relationships.
Right.
And then in Lenny, you get this vibe. It's lit. It's fiction film, so it feels like you're going day to night. Yeah. So in Montage, I wanted the audience to have that feeling that we're sitting with these people and it's going over the course of day to night. And part of that was, okay, since I am going to do talking heads, we're going to make sure that each time they're talking, it's lit to embellish them. So we're communicating something. Yep. Through the lighting, none of those were shot in people's homes. They were shot in homes, but not the homes of the people.
Oh, it was like a set.
I got a set. For like Chris Novoselic, that's a set. Or for Kurt's girlfriend, that's a set.
Oh, that's not his house?
Yeah. No, so it was, once again, because as a director doing archival-based films, you have a very limited palette in regards to how you could communicate to the audience. Right. So you have, if you're using archival, you have color grading, montage, and sound design. Right. That's it. And if you're integrating talking head interviews, now you have another element. Right. So the question becomes, how am I directing that element? How am I, you know what I'm saying? Yes. And you and I both know, because you've made documentary films, that in general, what you have to do in a documentary, just by the nature of the beast, is set the camera down and talk to someone for 3 hours. Right. And you're not changing the lighting because you don't know where it's going to go in the film. Right. But we did the interviews after we knew where they were going to get cut in Montage.
So when you did the interviews,
I'd already cut the film for the most part.
You had already cut the visuals?
Yeah, I cut the visuals first. That way the film would never be reliant on talking heads.
Because to me, so you knew, so the answer, so when you did Robert Evans, when you did Kid Stays in the Picture, did you shoot his, you didn't?
No, we knew Bob.
That to me is like fucking, to me, that is fucking ballsy as a motherfucker. Because, what if, I mean, you knew there was a plethora of archival stuff, and you had there
were photographs.
There were photographs, but you made those motherfuckers come to life.
We had to, because there was no film footage.
Right, okay, but I mean, those like the movie was like singing because of it, and I remember sitting in the theater. Now it's been done. you know, people have seen it. But I remember when I was watching Kid Stays in the Picture, I was like, not in a bad way. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Because the animation, or you know, the way you were fucking around with the photos, it was like a whole other world that was happening. You know, and it's been done. What year? How many years ago was that?
That was 2000. It came out in 2002. So we were doing the effects in 2001.
Okay, so it's a while. But I mean, that was a game changer as far as
what it was I think the moment when documentaries went from analog to digital.
Right.
That was I think, because we could talk about the technology, which was After Effects, and we're still using I did the journal photography through After Effects in Montage of Heck.
But you did,
so we use the same technology for different purposes, right? We made it look like it's handheld Super 8 footage or whatever. But before Kid Stays in the Picture, when people were dealing with ephemera, which is any two-dimensional, you know, photograph or journals or writings or anything, they would shoot it on an animation stand with a fixed-mounted camera that could zoom and it could make up and down moves, but that was it.
Right.
And it was always lit. Yeah, you could tweak the lighting, but it was generally one-to-one lighting. Well, what happened with the Kid is we scanned all the ephemera.
Right.
So now everything was digital,
right.
And now we can manipulate the fuck out of it.
Right.
And that had never been done before in nonfiction. It was the first, I think it was one of the first movies ever to finish entirely in HD on the East Coast.
Oh, okay.
And so that was the game changer for nonfiction, in the sense that once everything got digital, now filmmakers had access to visual effects.
Right.
And at the same time, reality television was taking off.
Right.
And so verite became more of a muted art form.
Right.
And that, I think, is why the genre is so sort of adventurous now.
The doc genre.
Because doing straight docs feels like reality television unless there's something amazing.
Yep.
And
unless the story is just that compelling.
Yeah, and now we have digital technology where we can do animation and motion graphics and, you know, some great effects works to create material to help bring these stories to life. Okay,
well, that's like doing a high wire act with no net, not filming the fucking interviews. And so I just am very impressed by that. And then when with the Stones one, with Crossfire Hurricane, you knew, obviously, they had been documented tons.
Yeah.
There's videos, there's fucking movies, there's pictures. I mean, it's the Rolling Stones. They are really thoroughly documented. When you went into that, you knew you're not going to shoot the interviews. Yeah. So what were the parameters of... Here's my question. You can answer the question within the question. What were, like, when you shot them, did the Stones say... Okay, you could shoot us for an hour, you could shoot us for 3 hours. Did you do pickups? And then how much of the footage that you used in the film, all the B-roll from all the other films, all the great films, particularly Gimme Shelter, like there's outtakes from Gimme Shelter, or I don't know if it's outtakes or stuff that just wasn't used, because, I mean, they don't look any sexier than in Gimme Shelter. They're like, I don't know, they're strung out of their fucking mind, but they look fucking cool as shit. So when you go into Crossfire Hurricane, like, what do you know you can use? And like, do you have everything laid out? Like, do you know, like, you have run of the playground, or like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because I always assume I have run of the playground.
You always assume that.
I always assume that somehow when I'm cutting, I don't worry about
getting the rights.
I don't worry about rights, and honestly, Michael, this is going to sound terrible, but in all the years I've been doing this, I haven't been to. There's never been a song I wanted to use that we weren't able to figure out how to negotiate it, and there's never been an image that one time on the Kid Stays in the Picture, we needed Bud Cort's release, and he wouldn't give it to us.
Really?
This I think will be the first time I ever say this.
Bud Cort is the kid from Harold and Maude.
Bud Cort's Harold from Harold and Maude. And so I don't know if people know this, but when you use a clip from a Hollywood film,
yes,
you have to get, because of SAG, you have to get the actor's consent.
And the rights to, like, the studio.
Yeah, so you have to license the film from the studio.
Which you got.
Yeah, then you have to make a payment to SAG for the actor. And you need, for films post-1970, you need the actor's consent. So if someone wants to use a clip of a movie you're in,
No one wants to use a clip in a movie, I mean, but just say philosophically. If they wanted to use a clip from Zebrahead.
If they wanted to use a clip from Zebrahead, they would go to the studio, they would license it through the studio, but then they would have to get they would have to pay you a SAG day rate.
Oh, shit.
And
for the clip.
For the clip.
I didn't know that.
And get your consent.
Right.
So on the Kid Stays in the Picture, Bob talks shit about everyone in his book.
Right.
And there was this huge concern that how in the world are we ever going to get people to sign these consent forms?
Right.
Well, Graydon Carter, the editor of Vanity Fair, is the producer of that film. If there is anybody in Hollywood, or not in Hollywood, who can get people to sign the release forms, it's Graydon Carter.
Okay.
All right? So with Graydon on board, we get everybody to sign. It's a miracle. It's a fucking miracle. Like, people Bob talks endless shit about in his book, Ryan O'Neal, whatever, they're signing up.
Right.
The only one who wouldn't sign was Bud Cort. We had a 1 second shot from Harold and Maude.
Right.
Bud wanted Bob to go pitch Harold and Maude 2 to Sherry Lansing, who was president of Paramount at the time, in which Bud would be the older character with a young girl.
With a new character.
With a young woman, yeah, which obviously the story doesn't work.
Right.
The story doesn't work
as
well with a young girl and an older man.
And Harold and Maude too, it just doesn't sound good. Like, as a marketing thing, it doesn't sound good.
And Bob was like, never.
Right.
Never. And so that was the, but anyway, short of that, so going back to the thing about the Stones.
Wait, so Bud Cort was like, fuck.
So Bud Cort was the only actor out of 256 who refused to sign their consent form.
And he's the only person and the only
time in my career
you haven't been able to do it.
I was thwarted.
Have you heard from Bud Cort since then?
maybe Bud will call us now. So with the Stones,
we should pitch Harold and Maude 2 to him, but say we're going to recast it with somebody else, and would he be down for that? Like, we just want to make sure that we have your blessing. So with the Stones,
so Stones, I didn't want cameras in the rooms they didn't tell me I couldn't use cameras. I just felt that I didn't want to make a film about them looking back on their youth.
Right.
So I didn't want to do it. B, I knew that the interviews would be a lot better if there weren't cameras around.
Just because you thought they'd be more candid.
Yeah, they'd be more candid, be conversational. And economically, it would afford me the opportunity to do, if I needed to do, 8 hours instead of, if I wanted to do 4 days instead of one.
Right.
I'd have that freedom. So
you wouldn't need to hire a cameraman. You just do it.
So I did all the interviews, by myself like this. Just I'd bring the sound gear.
Just really kind of simple like this.
I mean, much simpler than your.
Even smaller mics than this fucking mic.
They weren't on Keith's lap.
Fuck.
So,
okay.
So I got 20 pounds of lead on my crotch right now. Right now,
but it's a normal conversation.
Well, we both do, which is actually
that's
kind
fine.
of creepy.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
I don't know. But anyway, so what happened was, I think Mick was my first interview, and they thought that I was going to do I think they thought maybe we could do Mick in 2 or 3 sessions. Mm-hmm. Well, the first session we got through 1 year.
Oh, shit.
And the session lasted like 2.5 hours.
And you just got through.
We didn't get past 62. And it was clear at that point that we were going to need, Mick, I think, ended up being possibly 15 different sessions.
And how many hours was this at the end?
There was no limit. So I would say typical, I did about 85 hours of interviews with the band. So they were the most extensive interviews ever done with the Rolling Stones.
Oh, my God.
Here's Keith. I remember very vividly. Keith, they thought we were going to do all of Keith in a day or two. And that Keith would do the max Keith. Jane, his manager, said the max Keith can talk is an hour and a half.
Right.
You will never get. She goes, I'll be back here in an hour. Let's plan on an hour.
Right.
The first day, Keith and I went 3.5 hours, and they would pop their heads in, and he would tell them to disappear. And we ended up Keith and I did 4 days at the Bowery Hotel, and it was fucking great. I smoked at the time.
Cigarettes?
And we both smoked Marlboros.
Oh, God.
And so I remember he comes in, and he puts his cigarettes down, and I put my cigarettes down. And I said, so how much time you got, Keith? And he goes, something like, well, when the cigarettes run out, we'll know it's time to go. And so the next day, he showed up and had a carton.
He was ready to go.
I had a carton on the table. I was like, I'm ready, Keith.
Right.
But he was, and the thing was, it was Keith and me in a room by ourselves with the shades drawn, smoking cigarettes, and he was having, I think, vodka and sun kiss or something.
That's a shocker. He drinks?
But Actually, the first 2 days we did, he was drinking, and then he was straight for the second set of sessions we did, which was interesting because the first ones I thought were a little more fluid, and yeah, man, it was just like there was not, especially with Keith, there was no question off limits.
You could just ask him.
What are you gonna ask Keith Richards? That's like there's no skeletons in the closet,
right.
You know.
With Mick, did you get don't ask about this, don't ask about
Mick
that?
had Final Cut. So he knew.
Just Mick?
Well, okay, so the way it works in the band with film productions, per se, you know, Mick spearheaded the film. It was his film. It was his project. Mm-hmm. So
meaning he reached out to you?
He reached out to me. He hired me.
Off of Kid Stays in the Picture?
Off of Kid Stays in the Picture, yeah.
And he was like, we want to do this.
He called me up and said, we want to make a film. It's going to be our 50th anniversary next year. We want to make a movie. I don't want to do a mini series. I just want to make a film, and I want it to feel like a movie. I don't want it to feel like, you know, a talking head, you know, run through by the numbers.
He said that?
Yeah.
That's cool.
In fact, what he did say, I remember on that first call was, he's like, I think it should, I'm not going to do my Mick.
No, do your Mick just one time.
I can't out of context.
All right, fine.
But he said, but I will say this, he's the only person who ever pronounced my name with 5 T's at the end.
Brett?
No, Brett.
Ah.
Well, Brett.
That
like it was
be
cutting.
Right.
Very cutting.
Right.
Because it's, you know, hey, Brett, how's it going? You know, like Keith, he's not even using a T.
Right. It's like your name's Brett.
Yeah, it's like, hey, Brett, how's it going? But the Mick is like, well, I don't know, Brett. Anyway.
And you feel like you're 11 every time he says it.
Yeah, sort of. So knowing that he had, at the end of the day, was going to, it's not like he's sitting in the edit room with me, but he knows he can take something out if he doesn't want it.
Right.
Then nothing's off limits.
Right.
And in a way, you get more. I mean, it's
a freedom because and then you could be like, I got you.
I ended up getting so much more than I would have ever got if we didn't have that arrangement.
I got you.
Because there were subjects that he would have just shot down.
He wouldn't want to talk about.
Just shot down. So,
especially if you were on camera too.
Right. So I figured with Mick, we ended up pretty much going about a session a year. We would do, and the sessions would go probably minimum 2 to 3.5 hours.
Fuck. So when you're tackling that,
and there was nothing. There was no. You can't kick me out because you hired me to make this movie. I'm not going anywhere, and we only had 4 months to make the fucking movie.
Whoa.
So
hold the fuck on, man. Wait, hold on. You didn't make that movie in 4 months.
From the moment I finished screening the footage, I had 4 months to deliver.
That's fucking crazy.
It was crazy.
That's crazy.
It was crazy. It was madness. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I gotta, because there's, all right, I want to stay focused, and I know I can't keep asking every fucking question I want to ask you, but when you go into...
This is going to be your least listened to podcast
no,
in history.
No.
And I'm not saying that be self-deprecating.
No.
I'm just being honest with you, Michael.
No. Trust me.
I don't know how many people normally listen to your podcast.
This is film school shit.
Okay.
This is film school shit. This is
Call
good
me when you pass 100.
When 100 people have listened to the Brett Morgen I Am Rapaport podcast, Brett Morgen
we will come to your house and cook you dinner.
Yeah. But when
Michael will act in your student film.
Yeah, I'll just do it. When you go into, like, do you have like an encyclopedia of fucking questions? I mean, there's so much time and so much, like, just the songs. Like, if you just forget the band interaction and all the fucking the hoopla, like do you walk in there with books and books of questions? Are you reading off of books? Are you referring to notes?
Okay, so what I do is my process is at the start of a production, before I've collected footage, I'll read everything there is on a subject.
Right.
Once I've started, I will never look at those books again.
Okay.
They're just so I have some context to looking at the footage.
Right.
So I'll know what things are.
Right. Are you a note taker?
When I'm reading, I highlight and I write themes at the top of a page.
Okay.
So like if I'm reading for research, I'll highlight a particular passage, and at the top I'll put like a theme.
Right. Like what for the Stones one? Like what were some of the main themes for the Stones?
Well, the main themes in the film ended up being about role playing.
Right.
You know, about how when they started, they were pretending to be the bad guys, then they became the bad guys, and then that role almost devoured them and
Right.
destroyed them. So it became a very singular through line of action.
Right.
So I go through all that shit, and then when I'm screening, I'm sometimes I've had the story figured out a little bit before I screen. Oftentimes I have to, like with Cobain, I had to go through everything before I knew what the story was.
Right.
But by the time I finish screening through everything, I have the story.
Right.
And within a day, and my process to be, if you want to know what happens is, I take a lot of notes during the screening, but
Right.
I refuse to get anything close to working on a script until I've completed the screening process. So what happens
Screening
is
of the B-roll and the
of
archival.
all the footage, all the materials I'm going to have to make the film.
Right.
The moment that ends, so it ends on, let's say, a Tuesday at 6:30, we've run out of material.
Right.
I'll say to the editor, all right, why don't you go and pull selects from Unplugged?
Right.
I'm going to go work on the script. I'll see you in a few days. And then on every movie I've done up to now, the main script is done in about 4 hours the first day I go to write, because I've been holding all this shit in.
But when you say script, so you'll actually kind of script out
It's an outline. It's
an outline.
Yeah. That's pretty specific. Like the outline for Montage is Montage.
Right. Because
I mean,
you kind of knew. You knew
I
what
knew what the film. I knew what the through line of action was. Once you know the through line of action, that then dictates why you're not asking them a million fucking questions off subject, right? Because at that point, what's interesting to me when I'm doing an interview with the Stones, 80% of what I'm asking them probably they've never been asked, because it's going to be specific to this weird tangent that I'm like honing in on.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or the same thing with Montage. Like, I bet you Chris Novoselic has probably never been asked that question about shame as it relates to Kurt.
Right.
You know, when I went, because I said to him, you know, Kurt seemed to be super sensitive to criticism. And I think the reason Chris probably has never been asked that is most of the time Chris is doing an interview, people are going to interview him about his experiences, Chris's experiences as a member of Nirvana.
Right.
Not the way someone else experienced it.
Right.
And that was also something when I sat down with Chris before the interview, I said, listen, every question I'm going to ask you today is going to be about Kurt.
Right.
I don't want to feel weird about it.
Because this isn't a Nirvana documentary.
Right. Like if I went to interview you about something.
Again, no one gives a fuck about me interviewing.
But I went to interview with some actor you, let's say, you did a couple movies with.
Right.
And, you may feel like a little slighted. Like, Brett's spending 3 hours talking to me about.
Like, why do you keep asking me about Robert De Niro, Brett?
Exactly.
Like, why aren't you talking about my experiences?
Exactly.
Like, and why aren't you asking Robert De Niro about what it's like to work with Michael Rapaport?
Anyway, so when I met with Chris, I said, listen, it's going to be a different type of interview. And so then, but you could see when I asked him that question, his response, I don't think he'd ever been asked that before.
That's it's a poignant part.
And so like with the Stones, a lot of what I was doing was, the interviews where I knew what the arc of the film was going to be at that point.
Okay.
I mean, there were still moments of discovery, of course,
right.
And being open to going down different paths you didn't expect to find. But that's you sort of have to have something. I mean, look, the thing. Truth be told, there were certainly moments where I was just asking. I knew something wasn't going into the film, and I would ask. A lot of times that had to do with the Stones archives, where I would ask them for a track that I knew I had no interest in using for the film, but I wanted to hear the workups.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'll be honest. Like towards the end,
because you're a fan. I'm
a fan, yeah. And then towards the end, I knew like I would never have this opportunity again, so
right.
I would call them up and be like, so I need to do. I want to do a sequence around the song "Melody" from Black and Blue. Do you have any workups to it? And they would send me these files of 3 hours in the studio, never before heard, that they would go bake. They'd have to digitize this stuff because it only exists on 1/4 inch.
So you heard all kind of shit.
All kinds of shit. And I had access to every recording they'd ever done.
And a lot of it didn't even make it into.
Oh, none of it. I mean, we had 500 hours of audio of the Stones, and the thing is, a lot of it hadn't been digitized.
Right.
So because their vault, their archive is every fucking 1/4 inch reel to reel tape, right, or whatever you call that stuff. And it's like, fuck, you, like literally, dude, you go down and there's just aisles and aisles and aisles, and you pull something out and you go, oh, I wonder what this is. And you pull it out and it says, June 1970, brown sugar, da-da-da. And you're like, no fucking way.
And you got to listen to it just as a fan.
Dude, but even more than listening to Brown Sugar, the master recording, I'm listening to the recording sessions.
Right,
and
the fuck-ups.
And not the stuff you get when you buy the Sticky Fingers remastered deluxe outtakes.
Why don't they put that shit out though? Like, will they ever?
They did. Like, they started doing that a couple years ago.
But not. I'm talking about like the more like for the like. I'm a Stones fan, and I'm not even like a hardcore Stones fan. But I'm a pretty like I would fucking die to hear all that. Like the riffs and like there's one part in
they're artists, right? So for them, it's imperfect. You know what I mean, Michael?
They have to appreciate, though.
Dude, if I said to you, I want to put out your first cut of Tribe Called Quest, like I'm a hardcore Tribe Called Quest fan, and you're talking to me, and you're like, yeah, man, I had a 5-hour assembly, you know, before we made the movie, and I'm like, dude, I want to put that out, and you're like, no.
Right.
Nobody's seeing that shit.
Right, I got you.
You know what I mean?
I understand,
So,
but
I know, I'm with you, though. As a fan,
songs, like, it's like,
I could listen to and I did. I had the opportunity of listening to, let's say, the sessions when they recorded, fuck, I love the song so much. I can't believe I'm spacing the title, dude. When he, and it's in the Brian Jones when he died. No Excuses.
Right.
No Excuse.
Because you have it.
We have an outtake. We use an outtake of that where Mick changes the fucking lyrics on the song because he says in that take he goes, "Never in my sweet short life have I felt so sad before," and I think in the recorded version, have I been so whatever it is.
But that's a goosebump moment in that film.
It is. So
because he's talking about him, and then it's really it's powerful. But like that's the type of shit where it's like, well, I mean that's up to them, I guess. And there's so much like who would dig through it? Where is all that shit?
It's in London. It's in London, is
there like a building that has?
There is a building. There is a. I can't tell you exactly where, but there are 3.
Is it because it's secret or because you just can't remember?
No, I remember. It's because it's not open to the public. But it's like 3 warehouses full of. They have dude. Fuck the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Right.
The Rolling Stones archive.
Right.
There's one hangar that has just cars. And it's like, I guess where the guys, like, instead of keeping it, because it's not even related to the Rolling Stones per se, it's where, like, Keith's Bentley from fucking 69 is.
He has all
there's, like, Ferraris in there. Like, for car collectors, dude, there's cars in there that probably have 400 miles or something. You know what I mean? Like, just, like, there's a whole car team. And then there's, like, a whole thing of all their stage sets for all the years. Then there's a wardrobe room that has all, like, the flag shit from the 81 tour.
Yeah.
The Mick wore, the cape.
They have all that shit.
It's all there. Then you go into a film vault room, and it's refrigerated. And then you go into the refrigerated master's room. And that's just a sea of 1/4-inch tape, man, as far as you could see.
That's good shit.
And it hasn't been digitized. So we were like, and this stuff's so old. So what you would have to do is we'd have to request, I'd say, I want Can You Hear Me Knocking?
Right.
And give me every work up to Can You Hear Me Knocking? And so they would have to take it and do something what's called bake it before they could digitize it so the tape doesn't crumble. And I'd be like, well, nobody's fucking heard this, man, since 1971.
Right.
So yeah, as a fan, that stuff's amazing. I mean, it's really awesome experience.
Yeah, I love that shit. Yeah. And I mean, and that
you had that with Tribe though, right? Didn't you have everything?
Fuck no, we didn't have shit. I mean, we had the basics, and then I wanted the outtakes, and then there was like a bootleg version of some outtakes, but then we couldn't put. I mean, everything with the rights. That's why I'm so curious about when you went into these films, because for me, when I went into Tribe, like, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. It was literally a Tuesday, and I was like, I want to make a doc about Tribe. I mean, it wasn't as quick as this. And it was as quick as this. I had spoken to them before about it. But then on a Saturday, I was down there filming their concert. Like, there was no planning. I didn't know what existed, what didn't exist. And, and because that film has sort of a dichotomy of real time and the story that took place in real time, and then the past, which I didn't know the story in real time while I was doing it. I had no idea.
Right.
It has that sort of, you get that. And that was the beauty of it. But like, I'm so fascinated and like to go into something knowing what the playground is, knowing what all your resources are, knowing what all your B-roll is. I mean, we were looking for pictures up until 2 days before we screened the movie.
Yeah, you were going backwards. I go the other way around. I collect everything.
That's a smarter way.
It is a smarter way.
I mean, and it's already, you're going to kill yourself anyway, but that's a smarter way.
The archivist is on salary and working a year before I step foot in the edit room.
That's what the fuck I'm talking about. That's why you're fucking Brett Morgen and I'm over here, drinking a fucking. I mean, no, but I'm saying as far as young documentarians, because people say, what do I need to do to make a doc? What do I, they ask me this and that to me is like an easier way, but you can't always have that. When you probably started your first film, you have to build, you've earned the right to have that.
That shouldn't, but the thing is, man, it's you can do searches yourself off there's footage. I think it's called footage.net or something, and that's pretty much what my archivist is doing.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the, and you fortunately didn't run into this with Tribe. But here's the real danger in doing these type of movies. Oftentimes we're attracted to subjects, especially in entertainment, because we like them. We're fans. So you like Tribe Called Quest, right? And you go, I want to make a film on Tribe Called Quest. And that in and of itself doesn't make a movie.
No.
It's by the way, having an interest in the subject obviously is critical, but they may not have a good story.
That's true.
Just because someone made good art doesn't mean they have a good story.
Absolutely.
I mean, and and oftentimes, it's the people the great artists who don't have good stories because they're just good at what they do and they don't get in trouble and they don't muck around. And someone like Bob Evans makes for a much more interesting story than Kathleen Kennedy.
Right.
And even though Kathleen Kennedy probably has a stronger producing record,
right?
It's just, what's that film?
Right.
What's the Richard Donner? I mean, I'm sure there's a good film. It's not The Kid.
I got you.
So the real danger is you get on board and you go, you get seduced by working with Mick Jagger and you go, yeah, I'm in. And then you get there and you start going through stuff and you go, oh, fuck. That happened to me on Montage of Heck.
How so?
I thought Kurt would narrate the film, that it would be all Kurt. There would be no talking heads. It would be Kurt. That I would go and acquire every interview Kurt ever did and then use that to fill in the holes.
Similar to that really good Tupac movie. Did you ever see the Tupac?
Yeah, Resurrection.
Right.
Yeah.
Where he's narrating his movie.
He's filling in the holes based on pre-existing interviews.
And it's kind of haunting because
it's haunting. By the way, one of the greatest openings in documentary history. If you haven't seen the film, the opening of that film.
Yes.
I'm going to ruin it right now.
No, don't.
Where you're going through, but I have to ruin it. Where you're going through Vegas. And all of a sudden you hear his voice come in and he goes, I was shot.
Yeah, it's fucking trippy.
And you go, fuck, dude.
Yeah.
I just ruined it. But the first time I was in a theater and I heard his voice, and you and I can figure out how they got that.
Yeah.
Because you go, okay, wait, the history of Tupac, he was shot before Vegas.
Yeah.
And so you're like, this must be from that interview.
Yeah.
But
the way they did it gives you the chills.
You feel like he's talking to you from the dead.
That's a good-ass movie. It's the I AM Rapaport podcast, and we'll be right back. Greats Sneakers. Greats is the first men's sneaker brand from Brooklyn. Born in Brooklyn. At Greats.com. They never sacrifice quality. Use premium materials. Style, quality, value is what they offer. Greats.com. Go to www.greats.com for 15% off. 15% off. Punch in the code Rapaport. RAPAPORT. Greats.com. But wait, what were you saying? Oh, about Montage.
Oh, no, yeah, but so Montage, so I got in there, and I'm looking at all the material, and then I started acquiring all of Kurt's interviews, and I didn't think he could carry the movie based on his interviews. Mm-hmm. I didn't like his voice, as a performer in the interviews. As I'm going to have to listen to this for the movie.
Why was it reluctant?
It wasn't Kurt, dude. It wasn't like Kurt. It was a different guy than the guy who we have in the rest of the film.
Right.
It's like the voice, the cadence, the texture of the voice when he answers the phone in Tracy's apartment.
Yeah.
Or any of that stuff in Tracy's apartment. Or when he's with Courtney.
Yeah.
That's not the voice he uses when he's doing an interview.
With Kurt Loder on MTV. It's reluctant, kind of.
Where he's either too earnest, too removed, too cynical.
Yeah.
Too sarcastic, too deeply aware of his own mythology.
How many hours of that did you have?
Countless. And towards the end, we acquired the Michael Azerrad interview, which was 25 hours of audio.
Which one is that? Okay.
That was the basis for the other documentary that had been done about Kurt called About a Boy.
Yes, which is good.
About a son.
With its all, all B-roll.
Right. So we heard that whole interview, and I didn't want to use any of it.
Right.
I just didn't. And so then I was like, what the fuck did I get myself into? Because I don't do talking heads.
Right. So you knew I'm not fucking with you. Like, you already knew, like, I'm not doing talking heads.
Yes. I called the line producer and I asked her how much money we'd spent at that point because I wanted to pay the studio back.
And get the fuck out of there?
Get out of there. I wanted to get off the film.
You were, like, nervous. Like, I don't have the movie?
And Michael, you got to understand, this is 6-7 years after I was first started talking about making the movie.
Oh, shit.
I'm so deep in. But we'd only physically been making the movie. I'd only been spending the studio's money for about 4 months.
So did you find out the number out how much you spent?
Yeah, and it was more than I was willing to give back.
So was that part of the reason why you were like, okay, I'm going to figure this out? Or you just were like...
Put it this way, if at the end of the day I couldn't come up with a viable solution,
right,
I would have paid the studio back, and I would have done it... because I'm lucky I direct commercials for a living.
Right.
So I would have just said, okay, I'm not making any money this year.
Right.
But your name's, you can't, all the money in the world doesn't buy you your integrity. So.
And obviously there's a party that you hadn't given up because you were like, you're going to make this movie.
I was still trying to figure it out, but I was looking at the numbers to see what we were at, and it was like 300,000 or 400,000 at that point.
Before you'd done shit.
Before you'd done shit. And I was like, I don't want to tell you what the number in my head that I was willing to go to, but there was a number that I had that I was like, we're giving it back.
I got you.
And I would have figured something out, but then, then I landed on this thing of doing the people who were most intimate with him.
Right.
And even that was if one of those people didn't come through, the whole thing collapsed.
Right.
Meaning if Kurt's mother held out, then the balance of the film is all fucked up.
Right.
And, I've gotten a little bit of flack about not having Dave Grohl in the film. Like, Dave Grohl was never intended to be in the film because it's just it's these 5 people. Like, there's a mom, a dad, a sister, a wife, the first girlfriend, and a band member. But
so the Dave Grohl thing, because I was going to ask you about that. You knew, was it, like, I don't know the dynamic of their relationship. I don't know the dynamic of Courtney Love's relationship with him.
Nothing, I wasn't there was Courtney brought me in and then was gone.
Okay.
So there's no, like, I'm not like calling Courtney or she's calling me going, don't interview Dave or interview Dave. There's no conversations with her about what the film is.
But like the Dave Grohl, like, did you interview him?
What happened with Dave was...
Because that's like a big thing. Like, even for like I'm a Kurt Cobain fan, but I'm not like but I'm like, yo, where's the fucking dude from the Foo Fighters?
Okay, so Connor O'Neill has something to do with this story.
Okay.
So my inspiration was Lenny. So I wanted as few people as possible in the film.
Right.
In fact, in my initial conception of the film, it never even crossed my mind to do Dave. It was always Chris. He was, and for those who don't know, Chris formed the band with Kurt. Dave came in after Bleach. Right. So 3 years after Nirvana formed, Dave becomes a drummer, and he took them to the promised land.
Right.
But there were 3 drummers that played before him.
Right.
So Chris was the guy there from the beginning to the end.
Got
Chris
you.
is from Aberdeen. Dave's from Washington, D.C. It's a story about a kid from Aberdeen.
I got you.
It should be Chris Novoselic.
But have you, so you said
But as I approached management, I didn't want them to think there was anything weird. So when I approached management, I was kind of hoping that they were going to tell me what they did, which is they said, well, we'll come back to you. Call me up the next day. And they go, Chris is available. He's good to go. Dave's busy. So, unfortunately, that's not going to work out. He's recording his new album. So that's fine.
So it's like an out for you because you...
I'm fine. I'm good. We're good.
Right.
We're going to make the film. So we go and make the film. We cut that was in April. I did Chris's interview in April.
Of last year?
Last year, yeah.
2014.
Yeah. And I start screening the film for friends. And I bring in a mutual friend of ours, Connor O'Neill, who cut Foxcatcher and Crossfire Hurricane. And Connor sees the movie, and he says, movie's over, and he goes, you got to interview Dave Grohl. And I said, why? And he goes, because if you don't interview Dave Grohl, you will never do an interview for this film or a Q&A where the first question is about Dave Grohl.
Right.
And he goes, it's not that the film needs Dave Grohl. Like, you're not missing anything. It's not like I'm telling you you need to get Dave Grohl because I want to hear him talk about XYZ.
Right.
It's distracting not to see him.
Right, because he's associated so much with Nirvana and Kurt Cobain.
So we reached back to management at that point. That was in October, and Dave was doing Sonic Highways. They're like, he's not available. And then eventually he became available, and I had locked picture.
And so that never got shot.
So then I filmed him 3 weeks after I locked picture, 3 weeks before the Sundance premiere.
Just in case?
Hail Mary. Right. Let's see if we can get it. You know, I was not optimistic at that point because I'd spent all this time making this film. It was not going to be an easy task to open it up.
Right.
And I tried, and I couldn't get it in on time.
How long did you interview him for?
Like a couple hours. But his interview was also different than everybody else's because with Chris, with anyone, I knew I was taking them on this journey. With Dave, I had to know exactly where his bite was going because the film was locked. Right. So he had he literally had to hit a bullseye like this big.
Right, I got you.
You know what I mean?
You know, I tell you, I watched this movie the first night it aired on HBO, and it was a hard pill to swallow. You obviously know a movie about Kurt Cobain is not going to end well. Ain't
no fairy tale.
No, and it's a dark film, and you feel his pain, and somebody in the film, I can't remember, I think it was Chris, says like you kind of in hindsight you knew where this was going.
Yeah. The clues were there.
Right.
They were right in front of you the whole time.
Right. And when you're watching, you're like, fuck, I mean, the drugs, and even before the drugs, just the inner turmoil that this guy suffered with. And also like the Courtney Love, like you see her survivor instinct. Even when she's fucked up on drugs, she just never seemed as fucked up as him. Like you just seemed like she was gonna get past this. And I mean, that one animation sequence where he's on the phone, like I'm just impressed. Like, how are you tackling this when you have so much from the playground to play with? Like, how are you zeroing in? I mean, I'm at your office, and how you have these paintings. How many paintings did they?
60 canvases and 6,000 drawings.
I mean, you're a fucking artist. Like, you're a motherfucker with these movies.
But the thing is, so that's that moment you just mentioned where he answers the phone.
Right.
The second I heard that, I knew it was going into the film, and I'll tell you why and where and how.
Okay.
You remember I told you I read all the books before I started the movie?
Yes.
So
like all the good books, the bad books,
whatever,
the pop books.
There's 8 books.
Everything.
I read them, you know? And so I knew the story of Kurt and Tracy. And so I had that tape on, and the tapes aren't labeled by year. So I would, listen for clues. And I knew that the tape was at Tracy's apartment. Soon as I heard that, I knew it was going in the film because those 5 words paint a picture that is so vivid.
Yeah.
And it painted that picture for me when I heard it when I was in the storage facility.
What are the 5 words?
Hello? And maybe more. I didn't count the words. Yeah. But all he says is, hello? No, she's at work now.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Right.
And suddenly you get this image of Kurt on a fucking Tuesday afternoon at 3 o'clock. And he's being supported by this woman.
Right.
Financially.
Right.
And he's sort of going about his business. You know, this is what he does. And it was so simple. And yet it made you feel like you were there.
Yeah.
Like, why does this even exist?
Yeah.
The only reason it existed was Kurt would record when he was recording at that moment on his boombox when the phone interrupted. And instead of pressing pause, he just went and answered the phone. And you build around it. You go, I mark that down. I go, this is definitely going in the movie because it's a. You remember when we started this conversation? I said I like films to play out in the present tense. Yeah. So that's a way for me to convey information without someone having to do it in. When Kurt lived with me, I would support him, and this puts you in the moment as opposed to someone telling you about what the moment was like.
I got you. This thing is like it's like a fucking mural. The Montage of Heck, there's a lot, and it's seamless, and it goes from, the rise and I mean, it just seems overwhelming to have that much stuff. Like with like, it's like you want all this stuff to put in your movie, and then you're like, do you ever feel like, oh fuck, what am like overwhelmed by the amount?
No, because the thing you get overwhelmed with, like, and it felt like Montage. We didn't have that much. There was barely any footage. There was like an absolute dearth of footage. Kurt was never in a verite film. He never did Gimme Shelter.
So it was just sit down interviews.
There were the only footage of Kurt were sit down interviews, some stuff with him and Francis, and the home movies. Well, and I did the home movies when he was a baby that his mom gave me. So that was there was no footage, man. What there was of the however many hours we had in our system called 700 hours, I would say 600 hours were nothing but VHS footage of the band playing.
Okay.
And with that stuff, I started to look at everything, and then at a certain point, after 3 weeks of the same set over and over and over again, shot on crappy VHS, that was the first time I've ever bailed. And I told the editor, I go, flag if there's anything that's out of order, because I've seen enough at this point. Like, I can cut the movie with what I've seen.
I got you. So, you know that existed.
Yeah.
And what about the journal stuff? Like when you making that stuff come to life.
So what? So, oh yeah.
I've seen that. There's a book, I believe, that I have of the journal.
Kurt's journal. Well, that's not what we had. We had the. They put out a 300-page book called Kurt Cobain's Journals, but we had the journal. So I had 4,000 pages, right? So what I did was I photographed. I brought an animation stand, which is really simple. All it is a camera at a Canon 5D, hanging directly over a table with 2 lights up. At 1-to-1 lighting, and we'd take 1 picture per page. That's it. I didn't read them yet.
And then once you take the picture...
Once I take the pictures, I brought them back to my office where I rebuilt the journals. So I had the actual journals, now not the published journals.
Right.
But I had Kurt's actual journals. I started going through them and highlighting themes with Post-its. And then I would give the pages to the assistant editor. I said, collate these by theme in the Avid. And so when I would then come across a point where I needed to access the journals, I would have, and the themes were, sometimes they were very specific, like Nevermind. Right. Or sometimes I had one box of stuff catalog called The Portal. And The Portal were Kurt's ramblings. Right. Just Kurt going off on the world. So whenever we wanted to go into like Kurt's like crazy thoughts, I would go into The Portal. And there would be all of the
kill
pages.
Yourself and...
No, that would be suicide. There was a suicide thing.
Did that give you when you had those like watching the film, like it gave me, like I was like, it was so intimate and it was so, because of obviously the outcome, like are you like feeling like almost like
no,
you're just treating this like material and you got to make the material. I understand it as when you're in the throes of it, it's like material.
The emotions didn't start until I had to start promoting the film.
Your emotions. My
emotions. And then it really hit me the night that the 2 nights before the premiere, 3 nights before the premiere at the final color grading session. We got to the end and it was Kurt and Unplugged. And I lost. It was the first time. Like it was hard to explain. It wasn't because Kurt was dying in the film. It was the last thing. It had to do with the fact I was putting the film to bed and that I wasn't going to go to work with Kurt every day. And that he was such an inspiring subject to visit every day at work. And then there was the time away from my kids. And all the fights, all the people will never talk to again, and all
during the movie,
during the making of the movie over the course of the years.
Talk about that as a filmmaker.
All of the emotion.
Talk about the hell that is documentary filmmaking.
Oh my God! Well, it just feels like, I shouldn't say this, Michael, but it feels to me, and I know it's not like this for everyone, but
I think it has to be. If you're
I
making
feel
a
like
good
the whole world's out to get you.
The whole world's out to get you.
Everybody's trying to compromise
You're a piece of shit. What you're this is me, and you can tell me if you concur with this. You're a piece of shit. What you're making is a piece of shit. I have no life. Why am I doing this? I would like to like my own private subway underground, so I don't need to see anybody. The person and people that I'm making this about are going to hate me because I fucked this movie up. I don't know. Like, when I was making my last film, my girlfriend said to me, she goes, why are you doing this? And I was like, it's fun. She goes, but you seem miserable.
Well, she has a point because you actually don't have to. I mean, you have to do it creatively, but you have another, like, financially, you probably make more money a week on set than a year on a movie.
Oh yeah, I've made, you know how much I've made?
Nothing.
2 docs. I've made zero.
Yeah,
I put all my money into the fucking movie.
You're paying to go to work.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
But do you have like fear-based? Are you like, I mean, it's probably everything, right? Like when you're making these movies, and especially this fucking thing. And the thing about Kurt Cobain is like, if you fuck up the Kurt Cobain doc.
You can't think that though. You can't, you got to be caught. If you, by the way, if you're at the point where you got hired to make the film, you're obviously confident enough to not let that shit.
I think it would take it into my next movie, and you're further there. But I mean, like, it's like he means so much to so many people.
But all it meant to me was France. I mean, honestly, I was making the film for Francis, so that's what really mattered most. But the same thing with the Stones. Yes, you don't want to be the guy who fucked up the Stones, but at the same time, if you think like that, you're not getting out of bed.
That's true.
So my thing is a little different than yours. When I'm making the film, I'm very optimistic about what the film can be. That's what inspires me every day.
Right.
So I don't think I'm making a piece of shit.
Right.
I always feel like I'm making something probably better than it actually is going to be.
Okay, I have that.
Yeah, you know, like this is going to be the Citizen Kane of documentaries.
Right.
And that's the thing that motivates you to go that extra hour every night.
Yes.
My thing is, I just feel like, you know, I'll be working with someone and they'll say like, you know, it'll be Friday and they'll be like, so, my wife and I'm going to be leaving at 6 tonight. You know, I got dinner plans and I'll just look at them like, are you, like, they're crazy. Like,
right.
What do you mean you got dinner plans?
Right.
Like, we're working.
Right.
Like, aren't you committed to the project?
I understand.
And so I always feel like everybody is trying to compromise you. Everyone's trying to look for a shortcut. You know, I direct commercials.
Yes.
Here's a conversation I don't like having with a producer where you say, listen, I think we're going to need a crane out at the chicken ranch. And they go, oh man, you know how much work that's going to be? Because I'm going to need to bring an extra 8 guys. They're going to have to get there 3 hours early and we got to turn around. And I give them this look like, first of all, why are you telling me this? This isn't my, I don't want to be insensitive. I don't want this to sound insensitive.
No, I got you.
But as a filmmaker, I'm the director. You're telling me what your dirty laundry is.
Right.
And I don't need to know.
I don't, just give me the fucking crane.
Give me the fucking crane.
Listen, and while you're getting me the crane now, because you're being a fuck, go get me a fucking, an iced latte and a fucking In-N-Out burger, because I don't fucking need to hear about you.
But the thing is, that what I'm trying to get at is you're trying to get this vision out there,
right.
And it doesn't matter what it's going to take to get there.
Right.
And so when this sound guy, who hopefully is not listening to your podcast at this point, says to me, I have dinner, you know, with my wife, and we have this thing with these friends, and I'm like going, dude, we're on the stage in 2 weeks. What are you talking about?
I got you.
What planet are you on?
Right.
I take that as a personal assault.
I got you, because you're in the hut. You're in the throes
war,
of it.
Dude.
We're at fucking war.
We're and it's not just that. We're in the trench. And there are people. I will tell you this right now. Who I look over this wall right now and I see some fucking, you know, ISIS coming over. There are certain people I want in that trench.
Right.
And there are certain people I don't. And let me tell you, the people I want in the trench aren't necessarily the sharpest shooters.
Right. Right.
Okay. They're the fucking people
that give blood.
They're going to be there at 18 hours into the day. And you look at them and you say, I'll see you in the morning.
Right, I got you.
5 hours from now.
I got you.
They're good to go.
I got you. Because it's like there's no glitz and glamour making a doc. It just doesn't, it's just not there.
But there is that
the payoff,
I want to get it
though.
right. The payoff is it's like baseball, man. It's the perfect game. What every, I think, artist is looking for. You're looking for this in your acting and your fucking and your directing is that perfect performance.
Yes.
That perfect moment that you want to be able to watch one of your films and not fucking have a moment that's off. In fact, in film you're acting, you want to go see it and go, oh my God, I have no idea it was that good.
Right.
And
it's rare to even get that.
And you live for that, man. You live for that screening where the audience is totally fucking there. Yeah. The projection's good, the sound's good. and everything's perfect, and for that one moment, it makes it all worthwhile.
Suspended reality.
Yeah, it's great. It's almost you can't almost describe it because
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
This is the I Am Rapaport podcast. Baseball is in full swing, and you could be part of the action all season long at DraftKings.com, the official daily fantasy partner of Major League Baseball. Daily fantasy means no season-long commitments, just instant cash and instant gratification. I like to bet. I like to bet responsibly. I don't go nuts, but when I'm feeling good, I'll put some money down, and sometimes I win, sometimes you lose. All right? That's part of gambling. Don't go crazy, like I said. Just pick 2 pitchers, pick 8 position players, and pick up your cash. That's it. New contestants start daily. So hurry to DraftKings.com right now and use promo code Rapaport, RAPAPORT, to play for free in today's $10,000 fantasy baseball contest. You can win $10,000 today at DraftKings.com in their fantasy. It's every single day there's baseball. You know how many baseball games there are in a season? Enter Rapaport, RAPAPORT, for free entry now at DraftKings.com. You mentioned Courtney and so when his daughter saw the film, did she see the film? And
it's right there. So you're sitting on her.
She watched it right here.
Yeah.
And how was the response? Like, was she moved? Did she like it? Had she seen this footage?
No, she hadn't seen anything. So I had set up I brought a box of a trash can like that in here, and a box of Kleenex. When I came in afterwards, it was full, and
it was just her
and her fiance, her husband, and she's to paraphrase, she said, thank you for giving me a couple hours with my dad that I never thought I was going to have. And we got into it, and there were things. She told me her favorite part of the film was the ending.
Oh shit!
The way it cuts to black.
Yeah,
that was pretty intense.
Yeah.
At first I wasn't like, should I be offended?
Right.
That her favorite part is the black
when this
later.
fucking thing ended. My favorite part of the movie is when I was able to leave. When I was able to,
when you cut to black later,
right.
But I know what she meant,
So since then, because I'm gonna, there's so many different questions, and people like, you didn't ask this, you didn't ask that, but we're just hanging out. This isn't a podcast.
I like this. This is great, man.
But and Courtney Love, what has been her response? And what was she hard to work with? Was she not hard to work with? Was she supportive?
No, she was the fucking greatest. Man, I didn't have to work with her.
Did she champion this whole thing? Who championed this? Courtney
championed me as a filmmaker to the extent that she signed a waiver, gave me access to everything, didn't ask for licensing fees, didn't ask to see the film, and I had full authority and final cut of this film, basically from the time we started cutting the film. And so was she supportive? You can't be more supportive than that. The greatest gift you can give someone is trust and respect.
Right.
And she gave me that in spades. Was that going to color how I presented her? Absolutely not.
Right.
Like, there was no way. In fact, I was convinced she was going to hate the film. Convinced she was going to hate the film.
What specifically? What?
The ending, I was sure she was going to go ballistic. That the last thing you hear in the film is that Kurt took 69 Rofinol because he thought Courtney was cheating on him.
Right. That was real shit.
The scene of her with Francis on heroin singing Amazing Grace.
Right.
The way she looks, she's naked in every shot of the film, and it's not glamorous.
Yeah.
This is a 50-year-old woman, and she didn't have any say, dude. I mean, I did ask Francis, I was like, is your mom, should I be concerned about the nudity? And she was like, because we were on our way to Sundance for Courtney saw the film 3 days before Sundance. The movie
that was the first time she
first time. Movie's done. Okay, so there's no going back. So I had to go to Francis. I was like, look, what should we tell your mom about all this news? She, it's my mom, please.
Right.
It's like it's not.
It's not the first time you've seen it. The world has seen her nude.
Yeah.
Well, that's fucking. I mean, that's Let me just ask you. My. This is just a random. 5 documentaries that a lot of people haven't seen that they can see that Brett Morgen recommends? So not the typical ones, but not ones that you go like, well, you have to go to a French museum. And
I hear you.
Give me 5 suggestions of movies.
Brothers Keeper.
Okay.
By Joe Berlinger and Bruce Sinofsky.
Yep.
Or, I think that's probably Brothers Keeper is accessible. Shit, Michael.
You could give me 3.
I really like Man on Wire.
That's good. You know they're making that into a feature?
They are, yeah, the Robert Zemeckis. I really like Man on Wire. I think this is going to surprise people, but Wild Man Blues.
Oh,
I think
that's a good movie.
It's a great movie. Fast, Cheap, and Out of Control, the Errol Morris film.
Yep.
I highly, highly, highly recommend that film. And I think that's 5. Tribe Called Quest.
No, you can't. Give me one more. Give me one more that like you're like, this is an important film to watch that, it's not one that everybody has seen.
I think
or not typical.
Yeah, no. There's a film called Mandabala.
Oh wait, which I think
it was about Brazil.
Oh, I saw that film.
Won the grand jury prize at Sundance.
That's a good film.
Project Nim, another film by James Marsh.
That's a good one. That one was hard to because I
bawled my eyes out.
Yeah, the monkeys.
Yeah.
And
it's fuck.
That was tough.
Yeah, that's brutal. Barbara Koppel, another Barbara Koppel, Harlan County, USA.
Yep.
Great movie. No, I like documentaries that feel directed. That's why I like James Marsh's docs, like Man on Wire and Project Nim, where you really feel like, it's not just the story.
It's not just
filmmaking is making the story come to life.
What do you think about, like, they've called this time in documentary filmmaking the golden age of documentaries, and I think it's great. I think, you're going to get some not well done ones. Yeah. But the access to them and the fact that they're in the vernacular because of Netflix and because of all the different ways to watch them. Like all the downloading. Yeah. Do you feel like that oversaturates it, or do you celebrate that more people are making them?
I think what's happening right now is we were saying this earlier. I think part of the reason it's so exciting right now is that you have to sort of distinguish yourselves from reality television.
Yes.
So the aesthetics,
as far as a doc.
Yeah, as far as docs. So the aesthetics are better. I think that having access to them obviously is a win-win. Looking back at the last 30 or 40 years, I think from 2002 to 2007, people look back at this magical period because that was where all the top grossing docs in history all came out during that period. Right. Fahrenheit, March of the Penguins, Super Size Me. I mean, it was like boom, boom, boom. I mean, it was like...
That set it off, kind of.
It was crazy. I mean, it was crazy, man. Wing Migration. I mean, all these films were doing tremendous, $25, $50 million at the box office.
And the Michael Moore ones and the
Bowling for Columbine. 2002, Kid Stays in the Picture and Bowling for Columbine came out, and the Kid was, I think, brought a lot of technical advances, and Bowling for Columbine broke down the audiences. $23 million.
And then what's the one with the fucking
Fahrenheit did $150 million.
Right. So if you can do a documentary on one entertainment subject, or what would be your a dream doc, on something that's accessible, that you may never do, or that if you as a filmmaker that you would be like, this would be my next one. If I had it my way, I would do a doc on who or what.
I really feel the world needs a Led Zeppelin doc, like a proper Zeppelin.
Have you put that out in the universe aside from on this podcast that you said only 7 people are listening to?
No, I think I did a couple years ago, and I'm going to try to reignite them and see what happens. But, honestly, this is going to sound fucking weird, Michael. Sitting here right now, I would probably tell you that there is probably no better subject that, for me, maybe for you or someone better, but I can't think of a better subject than Kurt Cobain.
I hear you.
It's tough because for the type of films I'm interested in making, he had everything. He brought everything to the table. His arc of his life. We were talking about artists. And sometimes they make great music, but that doesn't. Kurt's arc is biblical. I mean, it plays out that way almost. This foundation myth, and and his ability to express himself in these mediums that lend themselves so succinctly to cinema. He was the perfect canvas. So I would say Zeppelin is the dream doc that I think needs to be made.
What kind of channels and doors do you got to get knocked down to do that? Like, I mean, the thing is like these guys are getting older. It's like, I agree, that's a great fucking subject.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about sexy and art. I mean, you got a fucking playground to play with those guys. Like, who do we got to talk to?
There's
like, what's the fucking protocol to get a Led Zeppelin documentary?
You go through management. You hope that they like your movies, and then
Okay, that's cool. Let's just say I pretty much for guarantee they like your movies. So then what do we do? What the fuck?
Well, that's a film that would have no trouble raising. Well, no. What do you mean? What do we do? You gotta get Plan and Page on board.
Okay, what's the problem? They're still bickering. They're not getting along.
It's hard to entice a subject that doesn't need it.
Yeah, but
you're much better off. Wild Man Blues, and I don't know the full backstory to this. I do know this. I know that Barbara had that Woody.
Wild Man Blues is a documentary about Woody Allen,
his jazz band.
But
really, it's about Soon-Yi and Woody.
Yeah, it's very intimate for a Woody Allen movie.
It's as intimate as you'll get, and because part of the context of that was Woody had Final Cut, if I'm not mistaken, which was important because he let Barbara film everything. And at the end of the day, Woody's ass had nothing to do with it only had to do with music.
Yeah.
Like his only notes to Barbara had to do with his clarinet playing. It wasn't about take that scene or this scene. So she got to shoot everything. And fuck, what was I talking about? What do you?
No, you were talking about like impotence to do it or a reason to do it.
And so like there was a bad rap about Woody and Soon-Yi in the press, and I think that no one ever told me this, but I bet part of what encouraged him or inspired him to do that was that he had a reason.
Humanize himself and humanize the relationship.
And sometimes the reason is someone's got a piece of film to promote,
right?
Or a record to promote, and so. Or they want a boost to their catalog or something. Well, Zeppelin doesn't need a boost to the catalog. They don't need money.
No, they don't need money.
And they don't need their legacy cemented.
If there was a subject that had nothing to do with celebrity, groups, or any artist, is there like a specific thing that you're zeroing in on next? Like the social, political, crime? Is there anything like in that area?
I think that... there's this thing about urban culture that I may do, but it won't be like a essay. It will be a film. It'll play out like a film. I think that there's issues I'm concerned about. I don't know if Chicago 10 was I don't know.
Another fucking
but another failed attempt at integrating politics. I feel that there are other people who can do that stuff better, and with a movie, honestly, and I'm not trying to be cheeky or anything. My goal is to entertain people for 2 hours.
I hear you.
And if I could entertain them, that is epic.
Right.
And anything beyond that's gravy.
Right.
And because I'm the type of person, if I go see a movie, and I love movies, and like we just had Memorial Day weekend, and my wife looked at me really silly on Monday when I said, I wanted to take the kids to Pitch Perfect. I have no interest in Pitch Perfect. I just want to go, and you know what it is? I'm addicted to popcorn. And for some reason, it doesn't taste it. And that's what I finally realized is I actually am just going to eat fucking popcorn.
I'm starting to think that too, because when I go there, it's like an excuse to be a fucking sloth. It's an excuse, because you're programmed your whole life. You go there, it's the candy. I don't drink soda, but I will get the biggest soda.
What is that?
I don't know. It's like Pavlov's theory. It's like your body you go into the theater, you want to eat shit and hopefully see something good. And I'll see shit just to eat the shit.
Yeah, because you've been here for 2 hours. We've been talking, and you have you had a Starbucks or something. And but it's not like we had to eat snacks over the last 2 hours. But if we spent these 2 hours in the movie theater, if we went and saw Matinee Day, we would fucking get a tub of popcorn. And
Bonbons used to be the thing. Twizzlers or Red Vines, depending if you're on the East or West Coast. But I don't know. I think it's literally like because you've done it as a child. You're programmed. Like it's just like you walk in and I remember at one time I was doing a movie and I was juicing. I was doing a juice fast and I went to the movie theater and I was like, I'm not gonna have any popcorn. And I brought my fucking juices in there and I don't remember what I saw, but I mean it was like it took away from it. I could have been watching I could have been watching The Godfather, but I had to have my green juice an hour and 15 minutes into the movie. All right, this is the I AM Rapaport podcast, and we're done. American Giant sponsors the I AM Rapaport podcast. Go to American-Giant.com. Check it out. T-shirts, sweatshirts, American made, American manufactured. Really good quality, soft, rugged, hoodies, sweatpants, all of it. American-Giant.com. American-Giant.com. The slogan for American Giant that we created is American Giant Clothing.
Champion. Can't fuck with this shit, yo.